everybody. First of all, thanks to the Hyper Casual Games Conference for organizing this panel. And today we will be discussing about the success secrets, operations, and tips from MENA and Vana Development Studios and publishers. And before we dive into the whole session and the discussion, let us start a round of introduction. I would like you guys to introduce yourself, and then we'll take it on further. So why don't we start with you, Masha?
Sure. But just one little background is like we have like especially Abhishek and Surojit we have met before and we have like participated in different panel discussions before, so we pretty much know each other, and we
All
were
right,
even like having fun in the backstage in
got
chats
it.
and also all good. So my name is Masha Mustakim. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of Alpha Burrito. So we have been working with hyper casual for around 3 years, and we have been working with games. Like I personally have been working with games for 7 or 8 years, but we got
Mhm.
our success in hyper casual or any kind of like professional success in basically in hyper casual in 2019 with I Feel Good. So that's pretty much famous in hyper casual scenario as an ultra casual like ASMR game. So yeah, after that we have published three or four more games, and we're still focused in hyper casual, and we're based in Bangladesh, and we have currently around 25 people in our team.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. How about you, Surajit?
Sure. So I'm Surojit Roy. I was up until recently the co-founder of Firescore Interactive, but as you guys already spoke about, Firescore Interactive was acquired by CrazyLabs, and now I work at CrazyLabs as the head of business for the CrazyLabs India operation. I've had the privilege and pleasure of, in some way, interacting with most of our other panelists here before as well, and I think our my personal contribution to hyper casual has been with our three games that were launched in the past couple of years: soap cutting, acrylic nails, and hair dye, which together had about 250 million downloads.
That's really nice. Congratulations on all that you have achieved with Firescore and Crazy Labs. Let's move to you, Ayush.
Hi, thanks, Anugreh. So I am the CEO and founder of BooBoo Games. All of you have some success stories. Unlike you, I don't have any success stories yet. In fact, I Feel Good was one game where, after seeing that game, after playing that game, we realized that, we are just wasting time in hyper casual. We should increase our abilities and technical abilities as developers, as a team. And that's where we started, working quite technically into mesh manipulation and shader programming. So that game was an eye opener. So I'm very happy to meet you here, Masha. And I know,
Thanks, so nice to
Surojit,
see you.
amazing stuff you have done in terms of, I think you have some of the best ASMR games live. So we are learning a lot from you and your game and your team as well. So we have
Amazing.
been into hyper casual for around 20 months, and we have made, in terms of volumes, around close to 400 games. A lot of
Oh,
games have been, past CPI or past retention, but we have not been able to cross both until now.
got it. I think we all know that it's just a matter of time in hyper casual. We just have to be persistent, and we'll get there with a hit. Can you please go ahead, Mr. Abhishek?
Yeah, I'm the CEO of Funcell Games and Citralica Productions. I've been making games for around 12 and a half years now. First 10 years, waste of time, but yeah, some experience gained. But we got I think everyone got a boost in 2019 with the coinage of the term hyper casual. Although my most of the major hit games are idle games, but we make a
Right.
lot of hyper casual games also. We started with a very small team, and then I acquired a company called Game NX in Ahmedabad, and now we are 72 people strong, and we'll achieve 100 by the end of March, April or May maximum. So that is the target,
Wow.
and we have a dream this year that since we have this strength, we'll be publishing one game at least every month or two. And January has been fulfilled. We published Hack Computer with Quali last week. It will start scaling this weekend. So yeah, I've been behind the games like 9 months. Idle Human and Idle Car. Stairway to Heaven was the first narrative-based hyper-casual game which got a huge success. We launched Chores Chore started the concept of mini games inside a game, and then so no stopping after you succeed. You get one success, and then there's no stopping you. You get a boost, energy boost. That what a success, what a success story can bring you. All 9 years are gone, wiped off in 1 second with that success. So Ayush, no worries here. No worries, buddy. I have been through 9 years, so it's been only 2 years for you. You
I
can
don't
go
have
on.
that much patience. I don't have that much
No,
patience. I
you
hope
don't need
success
that
comes
now.
faster.
You don't need that now. But trust
Yeah,
me, the more longer you wait, the prize will feel more rewarding. I cried the whole
hope
night when
so.
IT World was published. The whole night in the shower, I was literally crying because when you wait 9 and 10 years and then suddenly something this big happens, you're not ready for it. And
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
it's too early. We have bigger dreams. We should dream of making something like Candy Crush or PUBG or as big as that. So in hyper casual, if you tell me even Candy Crush is a hyper casual game, but it has made so big. So we should always think about making new stuff, weird stuff, and go on. Yeah, Anugreh, that's all.
Yeah. I'm sure this is just a start for all of us, and I see this region progressing a lot, and especially in India, thanks to you and many other things. I think there's a huge scope of not just hyper casual games but other things as well. But having said so, let's dive into the topic. The most crucial thing in the hyper casual space is to just find out really good ideas that haven't been heavily experimented before, and us being studios have probably tried various things for the best ideation techniques. My question to you guys is that what is your ideation process like, and where do you guys derive inspiration from? We can start with you, Abhishek. You have had multiple hits with multiple publishers, so what's your ideation process like when you were a small studio, and now that you have a team of 72 people?
Yeah, so the ideation, see, when hyper casual games, we always, this is a common mistake that people tend to follow the top charts too much. If some
Correct.
game hits a top chart for 2 days, okay, let's copy and make something like this. And after 3 days, you see that that game is nowhere in the top charts. So
Correct.
why they push it, how it's pushed, some trend, TikTok trend, we should definitely follow the TikTok trends. We should definitely, check the top charts from now and then, but not too much get too much dependent on them. People try to get stuck with these top chart games, and they cannot decide. They cannot focus on something new. I would rather tell everyone to go to itch.io, where indie developers release games every single day, new concept, new type of theory. They are games for online, but we can be converted into mobile games. So basically, the ideation should not come from the gaming industry. It should come from outside. When we made Idle Human, it was just an idle game where you tap, 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 click, 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 and the human body is made. Everybody in my team said that, "Are you stupid? Please stop this. It's taking too long." It took us 8 months to make that game. And then on almost the last week, everybody told us that what a stupid idea. Who will make a human body? Even my family members told me that this is really crazy. You wasted so much money and time on this. I said, okay, we have made it. Let's try it. What's the harm? And today we have
Correct.
60 million downloads, and those are not the downloads in Indonesia or Philippines. They are all US tier 1 country downloads. So we have made ourselves at this stage because of that game. One game hit, and it's still giving me so much revenue. The problem with some hyper casual games are they give you revenue for 3 months, 4 months, and then you're gone. But if you make the hyper casual game and have the plan from the beginning, that how to scale the game later on so that it stays there. There are many hyper casual games which stay there for very long periods. If you check some of the games by Lion Studios, or if in fact Surojit knows all about it. So yeah, you should think of ideas which are unique, which are different. And you once you don't check the top charts, automatically your mind will start thinking, and coming up with ideas. I watch Discovery Channel, Curiosity Stream, all different ideas come in mind. We have a group discussion, and we tell them we don't want any ideas related to the games in the top charts. We want some unique ideas, because the whole world is looking at top charts. How can you compete with the whole world with the same idea and the same runner games? The competition is fierce now, since the
Correct. Correct.
public is talking to all. Yeah.
Right. Right. That's completely understandable. What about you, Surojit? While you were working in Firescore, was it something related to what Abhishek said, or did you have something different while you were ideating?
Absolutely, most of what Abhishek said is totally accurate. And to add to that, and probably maybe add maybe slightly broader kind of perspective to it as well, is that I feel like hyper casual has now evolved into a phase of relatability. I think a lot of the games that you see out there are very relatable. Now, there were always relatable games in hyper casual before. I think Masha can be a testament to that. But now I think all across genres within hyper casual, across the subgenres, we're seeing that relatability is playing a very important role in most of the games and most of the game subgenres as well. And so I think that is something that is a baseline, and that you need to be relatable to the audience today to be able to attract them. And of course, you need to be unique. I think that goes without saying these days, that there are a lot of clones, there are a lot of similar games out there, games with small changes to a big popular game, but of course, you need to be unique as well.
Got it. Got it. Abhishek and Masha, would you guys like to add anything, or is it the similar to what Abhishek and Surojit?
Ayush, would you like to go first?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah, sure. So I mean, everything is covered. I would just like to add that some of the best ideas come from the silliest observations around us. Uh, there were a couple of slap games which were usually popular. Uh, it's just about, you see someone being slapped or you slap someone, and that gives you some kind of satisfaction. So you put that in a game, and that game does wonders. So for us, a lot of our ideas come from some action movies, some James Bond movies, or things around us which are very silly, very stupid to look at first. But if we are able to gamify them, then it actually starts making sense.
got it.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's been more or less been covered by the other panelists, and Abhishek he has put it, like in as much details as possible. And I've been a big fan of a book called The Art of Game Design, and like there's this quotation kind of you'll find in that book is that like if you are to find game ideas, definitely look at games, play games, but you need to look everywhere else. So there from there you'll get unique ideas. So that's been covered by Abhishek Bhai as well. Uh, but one thing, like I'd like to tell from our experience is, but I'll have to warn you that like that philosophy kind of worked back in 2019 and 20, and things have evolved much. That is, when you are studying games, oftentimes definitely when you are new in the industry, you'll be like studying the top chart, and like you'll definitely tempted to clone, and definitely they are not going to work. But oftentimes, uh, like even back when we were able to launch IPL Good, after that there was a trend of like ASMR games, and a lot of ASMR games came in. But before that, before like ASMR games came into being, where like when we wanted to come up with like we with this idea. So this idea was basically suggested by our publisher, definitely. And now like back then we used to explore different kind of ideas, different kind of like oftentimes variations of existing top shot games, and definitely they didn't work. And one of I have covered this in a few other like panel discussion as well. I'm going to add this again here, that like when we were looking for ideas and like making different variations of a game. So back then, 2019, Voodoo had released a very like popular game, Roller Splat. So we were making a different variation, a more difficult, a more puzzly version of that game. And when we submitted the game to a publisher, he basically like obviously rejected it and said like it's not going to work. So our question was like like why it's not going to work. Like we made a very interesting and different variation, so it seems fun, why not? So one other thing that was like very important, that like uh, from the roller splat, the learning you should get is like people want to be satisfied, not want to be challenged more. So if you can come up with ideas where you can, enforce the satisfying part, then, like we maybe can work with it. And, like after later, they suggested the idea of IPL good, and definitely it aligned with the market and necessity. So my one of my perspective is, like oftentimes the games that are, like top 100, 200, 500, they have some indication of what's going to be, like what users want in future. Some of the games have tiny bit of, like elements that basically they want, like actually a lot more enforced version, or like some element that the users want more. So if you can, like study and detect that part, and, like come up with ideas, it can be a good way to, like generate hit games as well. So that's my bit from it. That's it.
That's completely understandable. A unique thing that I'm taking away from here is that generally we have heard that everybody should be seeing top charts and just creating clones, tweaking it a bit. But as per you guys, what a common thing that I observed is that you guys look for inspirations from real life as well, and then perhaps like apply game design elements to that, and also figure out if that particular thing will also be performing well in marketability or not. And I think that's a really good insight. As you guys said in your introduction, you guys have big teams now. I didn't think that hyper casual games, like hyper casual gaming studios, could have so many, like such a large team working together. I'm very curious to know what is the structure of your company like. Like, how do you divide the teams into, like, you, Abhishek, you have 72 people working in your company. Masha has a big company too. So how do you divide and how do you structure your team uh, to like make sure that your development process is faster and you are having refined ideas as well? We can start with you again, Abhishek.
Yeah. So Anugreh, it's we have not, we have a set of 3D artists, we have a set of game devs, we have a set of game devs, we have a set of 3D animators. Mostly 3D games are working, so we have very less 2D people, and we have a set of UI designers. Plus, we have 10 people in our creative group where they make video creatives, because it's all about testing the videos now. But we usually take out the videos from the gameplay itself, but change it a bit according to the requirement these days. But I personally don't like dividing teams into, like, these this team will make puzzle games, this team will make hyper casual games, and this team will make idle games or any genre. Why I do that is because I want everybody to be experienced with all kinds of stuff. The market changes so fast. 2 years back, nobody even knew, till Masha made IPL good. No one knew the word satisfaction. Satisfaction. What do you mean by satisfaction? When we play a mobile game, we should have some puzzle stuff and challenge and everything like that. But Masha, I would like to just tell you that it is returning back. People are changing trends. Satisfaction is, I think they are overly satisfied. For 2 years they have been satisfied by you and Surojit so much that they don't want to be anymore too much satisfied. So trust me, the trend is changing. And Anugreh, why I don't like to dedicate teams toward one particular genre is that we don't know what will be the trend. For the last week, I'm watching that word games have been on the top charts. There are 5 or 6 word games.
Right.
Maybe word games are coming back, so I have to, tomorrow I will be launching a super word game only in US. But we have to change fast now. If I only put a dedicated team for hyper casual and suddenly hyper casual goes out a bit, then those guys are stuck with that type of designing art. So I will tell them to make realistic art, semi realistic, cartoonish. But basically we have the division of the team members but not of the game genres. So
Got it.
we have around 15 3D artists, 12 3D animators, 19 game developers now, and we have in management 6 or 7, 10 video editors, 4 UI designers, and 3 QA testers.
Got it. Got it. That's really wonderful to know. What about you, Ayush? You have tested about like 400 games. Have you divided your team just like have you not divided your team just like Abhishek, or have you like made some micromanaged your studio in such a way where a particular like three people are working on one idea and other three people are working on another idea? How do you divide that in your studio?
So initially, when we just started, we didn't have a lot of support from the publishers until when we proved our quality and our speed. Once the publishers started supporting us, then sometimes with publishers, what we do is, for example, a publisher called X. Then we have a small sub team which works only for the publisher X, and we do 4 or 5 games with them. So we have divided the whole team into sub teams. Each sub team would have developers, 3D artist, an animator, and a game designer who will design the levels. And before all this, the most important thing, what I feel in any team, any structure in hyper casual is the ideators, the people who come up with ideas, and who design the game concepts. So we have a team, dedicated team, very small team of 6 people, whose their job is only to come up with new ideas every day. So if every day I receive around 20 ideas from them, maybe I have to screen out 15 of them and move forward with 5, pitch it to the publishers, and then if they like it, we make it into a game. So there's a lot of rejections and thrashing and killing of ideas itself that happens in our team. And rest developers are the most important, I think, in hyper casual, because you don't need many 3D artists for just hyper casual. Abhishek is doing a lot of other things as well, like idle games, so he would need a lot of design support as well. But in hyper casual, most of the things are available on the asset store. You can purchase them. There are models available which are rigged and animated as well, so those things help to increase the speed. Hence, our structure is like 70% would be developers and 30% would be designers on the art side.
Got it. Got it. What about you, Masha? Like, have you also micromanaged your studio, or there are no bifurcations and you make games based on the trends that are working in the market, like Abhishek?
It depends. I mean, usually our team, like as I say, like a team is of currently 25 people, and we have around 3 or 4 game designers and product managers. So, and when necessary, our product managers manage the teams. When necessary, like they design games as well. So based on necessity, we distribute our team, like the whole company in different teams, like 2 to 3 people team, with programmer, animator, and 3D artist. And as other individuals have stated here before, that like oftentimes you do not need as many 3D artists in hyper casual. So based on games necessity, we make the micro teams, and like that team independently operates and they execute the game. So, and in most cases, like those teams, assemble and create the game and put it for testing. So that everything happens just for a week or so. That's it. So we have a very dynamic situation in our team, and like a lot of teams are forming, breaking, and like collaborating with each other. So that's how we usually do it. But oftentimes, like games will go for soft launch, and like often games oftentimes might get rejected after soft launch. But when you have gone into the soft launch phase, you need to make a lot of levels, like design levels, make like more graphical contents. So in that case, we increase the team size and go from there. So that's how we more or less operate.
Got it. Got it. That's understandable. What about you, Surojit? I think you must be working with a lot of development studios. Have you like seen this micromanagement of studios, or are the studios working on like any kind of games that are working in the market?
So in terms of team structures, we work with a lot of studios and we've seen a lot of different types of structures at play. Abhishek, Ayush, and Masha have their own kind of processes in play, and we've seen certain different types of structures as well, which include a lot of outsourcing to other studios, or not necessarily working within your internal team.
Right.
And companies that have been built on partnering with external studios or freelancers who are working not just within their country but also abroad, and being able to access the talent that's there. And in fact, I've seen some studios working with just a couple of founders, and basically the rest of their entire team is just an outsourced army, you could say, on demand, depending on what they need from game to game. As far as internal production goes, For us, at least, pre-acquisition and post-acquisition, we've been hovering around 16 or 17 people. Our internal production is completely managed by my co-founder Karan Kerajani. He handles and leads the production and design and development on all of the games. So everything kind of goes through him. Uh, before we before the acquisition and over the last year or so, I've transitioned more into a business side role, which involves handling and working with external studios. So my involvement in the internal production has been slightly limited. But what I can tell you from our experience is that we also kind of work within pods, and we have developers and designers working together in sort of pods for each month, and they try to take on 2 games a month approximately, or sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the types of games we're doing. We also have our leadership and management basically is fully involved in every game. Uh, Even hands-on at times, going deep into Unity if necessary. And I think we like it that way. We like to keep quality control at a super high level, and that's kind of what allows us to do that, to be involved deep down in every single game. So even myself now, even though I'm doing a slightly more external-facing role, it's very addictive to kind of look at a game, have an idea, and kind of just jump in hands first, and try and make it better and better and better.
That's a really nice insight. I just to summarize up, perhaps you could just do not bifurcating your studio in like specifically focusing on a particular genre, or you could probably just be a game designer yourself and outsource other things as well. And if you are having your own team, you could perhaps micromanage it as well. But moving on from hyper casual and the hyper casual techniques, I just wanted to understand, what do you think about the MENA and the WANA region? Where does it stand as of today? And how is it different compared to the European region or the North American region? I think, Surojit, you will be the right person to answer this first, as you have already published many games and you are now leading CrazyLabs India. So you can go ahead, please.
Right. So when we talk about the MENA region, we're talking about the Middle East and North Africa, and I think two of the biggest hubs for hyper casual. We were talking about it before the panel as well. Two of the biggest hubs for hyper casual games development and publishing are Turkey and Israel.
Correct.
Crazy Labs has our HQ in Israel, and there's a lot of competing publishers in Israel as well. But
Right.
Turkey has shown itself truly to be one of the biggest markets for hyper casual in the world.
Correct.
You have Rolik over there, who has completely, you could say, changed the face of how Turkish game development is, and that
Right.
influence has extended, even to the point where even we have one of our Crazy Hubs accelerators based in Turkey, and that's doing really well, and we are looking at that as a source of incubation and acceleration for a lot of small startups who want to get into hyper casual game development. So it's a bubbling market. I think if we talk more broadly about South Asia, which is where we have most of us are based or have offices in, I think that is another unique opportunity in hyper casual, because similar to Turkey and Israel and other places that have shown a huge growth in hyper casual in the last couple of years, our region has also shown that similar growth in places around South Asia. And I think a lot of publishers are looking at South Asia and going, this is a really exciting place to be, because there's so much talent available, potentially for lower costs, and also as a result of that, the margins can be super high at the same time. So I think overall, this region and the MENA region are very similar in ways, but at different stages of their development. And I think as far as South Asia goes, we are going to see a lot of hyper growth continuing to happen, thanks to some of the studios that we have here, who are contributing significantly to the impact that we have from here on the global markets.
Correct, correct. That's completely understandable, and I just like to follow up, and I'm just curious to also know about you have published your games globally. What is the difference in terms of user behavior? While if we compare the user behavior of the Minawana region or the South Asian region as compared to the North American or the European region, do you see a large difference in that, or is it very similar to the North American region behavior? So I'm just curious to know about the user behavior that these regions have.
So from at least from our experience and my previous experience also over the years in the industry, the biggest differentiator really has been spending patterns and how people spend money on mobile games in the Western regions versus in other regions in developing countries or in a place like India, for example. If you take India as an example, that obviously has changed now over the last couple of years, and we've seen even Indian users developing into spending users. We've seen the percentage of paying users rise across the casual games industry. Hyper casual, still we don't currently monetize through in-app purchases as of now in hyper casual, but when that comes into play, if it does come into play, I believe that will have significant impact on the market as well. But I think spending pattern is primarily where we've seen the differences. I believe for engagement, retention, things like that, games have users show similar behaviors across these multiple regions. But when it comes to actually spending or the pipeline that goes towards the user spending, I think that's where the behavioral changes start to arise.
Got it. Got it. What about you, Masha? Have you seen like the region that you are in? So if you're talking about the South Asian region or the Bangladesh region, what is the major difference that you see here as compared to the North American region?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think it's like standard. Like Surojit already covered this because it's definitely the the spending pattern. And so when before we started in hyper casual, we were actually trying to make games for the local market, and we in a different banner and in different under a different company name. So we made actually a couple games based on the liberation war context of Bangladesh, and we made a game named Heroes of 71 and yeah, Mukti Camp. So Heroes of 71 became pretty big in Bangladesh, and it got around 7 million organic downloads. So, but the problem is that like we got users and we got around so back in 2016 when we were making games, we weren't as good as game developers like we are currently now. So the quality and like a lot of analytics stuffs we weren't checking, and like we weren't improving the monetization and all. We had a lot of problems, but even when we raised some funding and tried to do that, we couldn't do it well in like 2016 and 17 timeline. So at least like from the I can't speak for India because like I haven't tried the Indian market, but I actually tried to build a business as a local like market in Bangladesh. And although we got pretty good downloads, like we got around 3 or 4 million downloads from Bangladesh for a few games, we couldn't generate like significant amount of money because the spending pattern is significantly different, and people are not spending as much as money. So that becomes a problem. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. What about you, Ayush? Have you like seen any differences? Like, do you see any advantages or any challenges being a studio in this region, or as compared to a studio in North America, Europe, or other regions? Do you feel there are many advantages that you have, or any challenges that you face while being in this region?
I think there is a little bit of both. Right? There are advantages, there are challenges. When we talk about advantages, the biggest advantage would be we get good skilled team at a cheaper cost
Right.
because the cost of living in India and subcontinent are cheaper. So so we get very good skilled team force. It's easy to set up. It's not very financially, involvement is needed in terms of you not necessarily need a huge funding to set up your studio. You can start slow. And in terms of disadvantages, it's actually the same thing because the ecosystem is not that developed here. So if you want to start something, then to get funding from angels or VCs or even government subsidies, these things are not so easily available in these regions, which may be available much better in Europe and American countries. And this is the studio side. And in terms of the users, the audience, in my last startup, we published a couple of games with Nazara Tech and Zapat Games, which is part of Reliance Games. So one of our games with Reliance, with Zapak, had 10 million downloads. It's called Little Singam Cricket. It's a Little Singam IP, but again, could not generate a lot of revenue just because it was more popular in subcontinent and not in the first tier countries. So even after 10 million downloads, the revenue was not so great. So it is a challenge. And from the even from the division of the entire revenue, the in-app purchase was hardly maybe 1 or 2% of the whole revenue. So which is like a quite a huge difference between game launched here and maybe in Europe or American countries.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I completely agree. There are obviously some economical advantage that we have as compared to the other regions, and also there is a shortage of like very skilled workers here. But having said so, let's move on to Mr. Abhishek. You have been in the gaming scene in India since a long time. So, are there any specific differences that you feel if you were a studio in, say, America? Would you be performing differently, or is it something what is the major difference that you see between here and the other regions?
See, I don't see any lack of talent in India. So I personally feel we are the most blessed country in the world in terms of talent, because if you see that although the Indians who develop games don't come out as developers because they are working for some US companies, but the talent
Right.
is here. The problem
Correct.
is that we from the beginning we start working for them, and that
Correct.
is what I wanted to change. So I don't want to mention it, but I have been approached by almost all the publishers of the world for acquisition, and I have
Correct.
told them right up front that one day I will be big enough to acquire you. So, and I'm talking about very very big, the biggest in the business. Like, so the point here is that first, you have to understand that everything is United States. Forget
Correct.
about all the countries of the world. Forget about India. In India, we had a. I'm also outsourcing studios. Apart from the 72 people, I have around
Hmm.
20 people whom these are small studios in our country whom we are helping. They will make games for us on our ideas because we have so many. And I have one company in contact who has a game with 50 million downloads in India.
Wow.
If I tell you the revenue that game made, you will not believe, because I know I made a game called Clothes Run. Now, the day of its launch, it got 1 lakh downloads within 3 days in India. I was excited. What, 1 lakh downloads? Who downloaded it? Somebody in the YouTube, maybe some from Indian in YouTube channel posted the game, and it was 1 lakh download, 100,000. And Anugreh, I would request you to tell me what was the revenue. It was monetized with ads. Obviously, the hyper
Okay.
casual and moving apps. So can you tell me the revenue that day we made from India? And you will not
I
believe
think.
this:
Uh,
hundred
can you come
thousand
again?
downloads, 100,000
Yeah. Yeah.
downloads in India.
Yeah. At max, maybe $5,000. That is too extreme, but yeah.
Just come down, much down,
Yeah.
I'm guessing $100.
down, Masha, down.
50, 50.
Lower than 100.
We had
Okay.
$29 revenue.
$29. Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
$29 from 100,000 users. To acquire a user in America, you need 30 cent is like at today's world is brilliant. So that
Right.
100,000 means $3,000. And you okay, I know user acquisition is very cheap in India. It will cost you 1 rupee, or say around less than a rupee to acquire a user in India. But it's all about US. Every single publisher in the world only tests for CPI in US. There's no European markets involved. There's no MENA, WANA, whatever. I don't know why it is called MENA. What is happening in North Africa? I really request you to urge on the behalf of gaming community to change this name to, say, something like Turkey and Israel. So TUIS or IS2, that is better, because North Africa is not doing anything, and Middle East, it's only these two countries. So I would register France as the number one company in the country in the world with the game making capacity, with having Voodoo, Homa, and all the big ones, Ubisoft and all. America, France, and after that it comes to Turkey and Israel. So basically,
Right.
these four countries, and you have Quali in UK, hardly one or two more. So these four countries are, responsible for 90% of the games produced in the world. So, and they make it from Indians.
Correct.
It's we who are making the games for them. So that's why I would like to, maybe publish someday on my own rather. But I'm happy with working with different kinds of publishers because you have different ideas and different themes and lot of knowledge. The only problem in India is that our art style, unless you train them, it will be Indian. But we are making games for the US, so you have to consider in mind the art style and the things which US wants. Suppose if you are making a food-based game, you cannot give a samosa and idli. So who will do the research for what food is doing well in US? But finally, we are making games from an Indian. So you need an American touch. We have some Americans in our company as well who work from home in America. So we need that touch because it's US all along. Everything is United States.
Right. I think that's a really great insight that covers all of the market, that understanding of the market. But I'd just like to shift that into the development part as well, in the development studios as well. And I'd like to ask Surojit, is there any success ratio uh, that you find a difference in of, like, say, South Asian region or the other regions? Like, is there any particular regions that you have seen performing really well, and some regions are not performing as well as they could? Are there any differences in them?
I think it depends more on where the publishers end up spending most of their attention. Because if you have publishers in hyper casual devoting a lot of resources to India or to South Asia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka as well, then of course you'll have a lot more studios kind of receiving the right kind of knowledge to build successful games. And ultimately, why a publisher would put their resources behind a certain region is, of course, because of the talent and opportunity in that region. So it's a two-way street that way. But I think as a result of a publisher or number of publishers looking at, say, a specific region and then investing in it, that becomes as a result of that, you see a lot of studios and a lot of success come out of that activity. And just as a small example, we are currently creating accelerators around India, and we have one in Mumbai, one in Hyderabad, the CrazyLabs accelerators, more to come, of course. And
Right.
that's one of the ways we are expanding, because we are looking at the opportunities and the success of studios like Funcell, of Masha's studio, of Firescore as well, and the other studios that are popping up that maybe don't have success yet, like BooBoo with Ayush. So I think there are a lot of these stories out there. Some have been told, and some have yet to be told. And I think as publishers, we are trying to find those stories that are not yet told, and to try and find a way to tell them. And I think that ultimately that investment from the market or the industry kind of leads to opportunities, which ultimately lead to successful stories. And that comes from, again, the talent and the opportunity being there in the first place.
That's understandable. I'd like to move to Ayush, and I'd just like to ask you, Ayush, you have made like more than 400 games, and if say someone wants to get into the hyper casual industry and wants to understand by your experience, what is the main thing that you feel a person should be focusing on? What is probably the best KPI, internal KPI, that a company should define, or a particular individual should define while getting into this hyper casual space particularly? Is there anything that you think is so important that if you do not follow that, it would probably result in a bad way? So yeah.
I think one of the most popular things, according to my experience, is moving on from a game. So what
Right.
we used to do in the early days, we used to get stuck on a game, and we were emotionally attached to the idea, or maybe some team member was like super keen on just trying and trying and trying. So sometimes it's much better in terms of results when you just move on to the next idea and don't waste time on a single idea. So to all the new studios which are planning to start hyper casual or indie developers, it's very important to be data driven. You have to trust the KPIs, you have to trust the CPIs, you have to trust the playtime and retentions. No matter how innovative your idea is, it can be a blockbuster idea in your mind, but not in audience's mind. So you have to learn to move on. And also, what is important is moving on does not mean that you have to forget about it. You can retest it maybe after 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, because hyper casual is ever changing. You never know, something which you tried in the past failed and may work much better and take you forward now. So the trend can also be in your favor at times.
Right, right. So moving on and not just getting attached to the ideas is one thing that you should probably intake in yourself. Masha, what about you? What do you think has been particularly the reason for your success? And like you have published multiple games. What is the one thing that you think has really benefited you and that you have inculcated, which has resulted into many published games?
Uh, I would say that, like a good publisher and developer collaboration and communication, because, like since day one, like when we started working with publisher, I used to ask, like thousands of questions, and like considered myself, like I don't know anything, and, like this market is ever changing, and thousands of games are being tested, like probably millions now, games just being tested in the market, and without the insight, we're just, like throwing arrows and stones in the dark. So I always felt, like we need the insights and the creativity, so both, we can be creative, but, like, we need the insight. So yeah, I mean, we used to communicate a lot, and we used to make different assumptions and ask that, like, do you think it's right? And, like, we'd get answers, and some of them oftentimes, like, they'll say that we're not sure, and based on those answers, we'll, come up with ideas, and okay, if they're not sure on this aspect, so maybe it's not been tried, so let's try this. So yeah, so for us, I would say, like a continuous and very active communication with publisher developer was the key to our success.
Right. Got it. So yeah, even everybody who's working in the hyper casual space understands the importance of having a relationship and having a good communication with the publisher. Obviously, a publishing manager, a publisher goes through like hundreds of games daily, and they would probably be able to guide you better than you could probably be able to judge yourself by sitting in the studio internally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Surojit? Like, did you also like? I have seen you getting hits with some ASMR games. Did you like iterate on them, or did you like once you gotten hit? Did you research more on ASMR, or what was the process like of getting multiple hits with just one specific genre of hyper casual? What was the process like on that?
Um, I think ASMR was somewhere where we had our first success. And I've spoken about it before how I Feel Good was a big inspiration for us as well before soap cutting. But I think as we evolved, ASMR became something that we tried to do with all of our games. In some way or the other, we try to bring in elements of ASMR and satisfaction into most of the kind of games we were building. So even to the point where when we were making a different kind of game, Acrylic Nails, which is more of a role playing game, has multiple more steps than say a soap cutting. We did try to build it in a ASMR kind of way, and that kind of carried forward to our next game, Head Eye, as well. And we tried to incorporate elements of ASMR because that is something that we found that when we are targeting the mass market, when we're targeting everyone from the age of 7 to 70 years old should be able to play a hyper casual game, right? So they all
Right.
want to feel that level of satisfaction no matter what kind of experience they're playing, whether it's a runner or whether it's a simulation game. At least that's the perspective that we took. And we try to incorporate that into every one of our games. And that kind of philosophy kind of carried over into everything we did in our production. So even if it was a very simple kind of arcadey puzzle game, we would still put as much effort into making it look and feel and play really nicely. And of course, at times we ended up spending a lot more time than we should have on games that didn't end up working, and we still do. But ultimately, when we do end up having that success or that we breakthrough with CPI, that really carries forward and makes it a lot easier to actually get the game out just past the CPI test. So I think that's something that we really pride ourselves in, and we put a lot of extra effort into bringing it into every single game that we do.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think that's a really nice approach about learning about from your previous successes and failures, and I think that is what hyper casual is all about: iterating from your learnings and coming up with new ideas. What about you, Mr. Abhishek? Have you like what has been you have been persistent for such a long time? What has been one thing that you think has made you successful or your studio successful?
I think it's been different. Think different, make a different kind of game. Our initial three successes were Idle Human, Idle World, and 9 months. 9 months. We still, you won't believe, after 2 years, we still have three people working on 9 months, because we have week, monthly updates, live ops in the game. So every Halloween, Valentine's Day, Christmas, we have to give live ops there. So three people have been consistently on 9 months for past 2 years. It's giving us that benefit. So yeah, I would say that the reason for success was it's completely, make a unique and different game. I'm see I when we were discussing about lack of talent in India, we have people like Surojit who has made acrylic nails. When I first played acrylic nails, I could not believe it that which studio can make it so well
Right.
in the world. I'm talking about. Then I came to know that this was made by an Indian studio. Now, at that night, we had a meeting for around 2 hours that if an Indian studio can make acrylic nails, we have to, come up with a better plan and improvement. Whereas to why can't we achieve such a great level of quality? We had our strengths in realistic games and semi-realistic ones. But when we played acrylic nail and Surojit, hats off to you. But it feels
Hats
like,
off to our amazing team and also to Crazy Labs, who was
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
helpful
of
in the
course. When I
process.
say to you, it means your team, of
Yeah.
course. But great, great work. The way the drops were falling. So what Surajit said, Anugreh, is that you come up with the quality game. It might take you some longer time, but definitely don't get attached. Ayush was on the Bulls. I there that you don't get attached because you are attached to your wife, you are attached to your child. Don't get attached to your games.
Correct.
No need. You can move on. If the numbers are not good, you can try one or two times more and then move on. But yeah, nowadays the trend is that you just need to make 3 4 levels. If it's a level based game, if it's a runner game, you just need to make one runner sequence, and you test the
Correct.
CPI. If it's like $1, $1.50, okay, bye bye, next one. You can make a
Got it.
game literally in 3 days now, and launch it and test it and bye bye. And if you're making a level based game, you try 4 or 5 levels with all different scenarios, different art style, different camera angles, and then you test the CPI with all of those 5 videos, and you'll see the difference in results. So we have learned this in the past 4 5 years a lot.
Right.
With in the last 3 years, of course, test working with so many publishers, like 15 publishers we have worked with, and still are on terms with all of them. And we've learned that, yeah, you have to learn to forgive, learn to forgo.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I completely understand that. Like letting go of your hyper casual games is like breaking up. You would have to just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get.
Come on, keep on breaking up and keep on
Yeah.
making up.
Got it. That brings me to a follow-up question. You have been like working on games since a long time. What has been the change in the industry since you like when you started and when you published your first game, like Idle World? What
I
has
don't
been
think
the
I don't think you will have time for that. I think tomorrow is my solo speech. I'll say that because it will be a 2 hour thing. If I start with what the game world started with, because I was the one who made the first game when iPhone was launched. 4 months
oh
after iPhone launch, I made my first game, Race Car Mania. 4 months
wow,
after iPhone launch, can you believe it? And that time, there was no free concept. It was just paid games. Then within the 1 or 2 years, people started making free games, but there were no ads. There was
correct,
no concept of ads. So you just remove ads, and there were two versions of a game: ads free version and ad version. After
right,
that, if you remember the time where there was $2.99 for the paid version and the same game free version. Then everything actually happened after 2017. Where we used to make the whole game till the first 7 years. We had to work 3 months, 4 months on one game, and today we
correct,
release 4 games a week. You can
right,
see the difference, like, because we make the games in 4 or 5 days. If it's a bigger game, it will take maximum 1 month because we know
correct,
what to test. We
right,
don't make too much so that even if we test and if the test fails, we have already put so much effort in it that we'll get attached to it and keep on spending it. But yeah, it has changed a lot. It is like turned over on its head. People
correct,
used to make such beautiful games before. I think it's like music. When you listen to Kishore Kumar, Mohammad Rafi, Mukesh, and you listen to today's music, it's exactly like that. I've been through, Kishore Kumar. I have been through today's what Badshah and all. I would like to tell you that the standard of games making has gone really, really below the belt. It's
I
gone so
understand.
low because I've seen the best games in 2011, 12, 13. Those were the real games. People used to work on those games. Just play
Correct.
games like, cut the rope And forget Angry Birds is in a different league. But games like Cut the Rope was so beautifully made. Where's My Water? Where are those games now? Like, why are people not even confident to make those games? It's all because they want to make money. Everybody wants to make quick money. Top 100, all hyper casual runner games. Okay, I want some quick bucks. But why don't you feel it in you that you can make a game which can last 5 years long? Why make a game for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, which will last maximum 1 month? But everybody, the new studios are everybody's coming up. Parents now teaching their children learn coding, learn coding. I was 12 years ago. I was there was no one even knew what was gaming all about. But nowadays, everybody knows it's become so easy. You just make 3 levels, test the CPI, then I'll make another game. It's
Right.
changed a lot. I don't like the today's world of gaming.
I know I completely understand your point. Obviously, when an industry game goes to mainstream and when an industry commercializes, it generally mainly focuses on just making things that generate
Quality,
money.
yeah, quality gets
Yeah.
down. Quality gets
Yeah,
down. True.
similarly, like I really like the example that you gave about singers, and right
Yeah,
now, like we have catchy hooks right now in the songs. Similarly, in hyper casual games as well, there are many things that
exactly.
just
The
generate
hyper
views.
casuals are like the Badsha rap music, and the
Right,
games which were made before were like Kishore Kumar songs.
right.
You can see
So,
the lyrics. Yeah.
right, I'd just like to conclude. I don't think we have much time. Masha, do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to tell the budding hyper casual studios that are coming up? We'll go one by one.
Uh, I mean, closing thoughts. I mean, if like for the people who are just starting out in the industry,
Right,
is
right. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, I mean, as I said, like for our success, it was really important to have like the right partner, and like having a good collaboration between like the publishing partner and us. So like for the people who are just coming in this industry and starting out, definitely I think like spend some time and choose the right partner, and like try to get the best out of your partner, and that would be the like the main reason for your success. That's what I think. And definitely it's cliche, like prototype fast and kill faster. So but like that's it. So have a good partner, and like prototype as fast as you can.
Got it. Thank you. What about you, Ayush?
So I would just like to add one thing because everything has been covered in the last 1 hour. So the
Yeah,
thing that I want to mention is that it's important to know what not to do, and it's impossible to know what to do. So there is no secret recipe for hyper casual, but you can at least know that if you do this, then definitely you will fail. So it's a reverse psychology kind of a thing that I believe is working these days for us.
got it. Yeah, that's completely understandable. Would you like to add anything, Surojit?
Just something I've been adding for the last couple of hyper games conferences at the end, and also to kind of take forward from what Abhishek was saying earlier, which is that the badchas and the hyper casual games, what they have brought to the world also is accessibility of games. And
Correct.
to the fact that now my grandmother, my mother, my nephew or niece all have an option beyond Candy Crush or Temple Run, hundreds of options. And
Right.
that's what we probably brought a billion new gamers into the market over the last 4 5 years, and that is something that is beautiful.
Correct.
So on the flip side of it as well, there is like a latent beauty about what we do, in that we are bringing games to a much wider audience and making them much more accessible. And I think
Correct.
just to add one last thing is that I think rather than thinking when will hyper casual die or will it, it's more about when will everything become hyper casual, in my opinion. So that's what I like to leave off with.
That's a really interesting insight and a really good perspective to look at what we discussed earlier as well. Last, any closing thoughts, Mr. Abhishek?
No, I totally agree with Surojit. See, Badsha has much more million views than Kishore Kumar has. So that is 100% agreeable. I just want to tell the new developers that, you should bring out new thoughts in the world, bring out new kind of games in the world. Who was the first person to make a runner game? Research on him. How did he started? How did the concept of runner game starts? How did the concept of IP good start? Talk to Masha, talk to them, approach us. We are open. We are not some Amitabh Bachchan award that we'll not talk to you. They should talk to us before, talk to people like us who have experience, who have so many failed experiences. That how did we think of IPL Good? How did we think of the acrylic nails? These kind of new ideas, because they are, the new developers are really lost. They don't know what to make. Trust me, I know many, and they are just struggling. So
I
it's
understand.
better to, think, sit down and relax and think and do whatever you want to do, man. Don't trouble your mother, man.
So on that note, let's end this session. It was really amazing. We had a lot of fun, and perhaps we'll see you again next time as well. Thank you. Thank
Pleasure.
you so much.
Thank you, Anugreh.
Thanks a lot, guys.